Good morning, everyone. It is the last day. It is the day of your test. I hope you woke up excited like it was Christmas. I hope that's how everyone felt. Understandable if that's not quite how you felt, because I understand that today is also a stressful day. But you should still be excited either way, because if you crush this, amazing. You should be pumped. If you don't crush this, whatever, you're done now. So that is awesome. I'm really proud that all of you have, especially of the work that everybody's done um, this past week and everything. I figured most of you would probably wake up nervous, but that's okay. Um, Several of you did the practice DBQ, the reconstruction DBQ that I posted yesterday, and emailed them to me. That's great. I will be looking at those right after this to give you some last minute feedback. Several people watched the Tom Ritchie video where he went over that DBQ and said that that was really helpful. So for those of you who have not done that, I definitely recommend that. Also, last night he did a APUSH review. That's about an hour, 40 minutes. So that's something good to watch today too. Your test isn't for another 4 hours, so you still have plenty of time to like listen to any review videos or anything that you want to do. It was extremely helpful. Okay, good. I'm really glad. I don't know how I did better on my women one than my conservatism one, because I felt so bad on the women one. I know, and I think it really comes down to, it's not about that's really proof that it really doesn't matter how you feel about the topic or the argument, or like if you agree with the argument or anything. It really just matters about like the points. This is really just a recipe. The question isn't trying to see or gauge like your passion for the content or anything. It's really, can you present the historical argument that College Board wants you to present in the way that College Board wants you to present it? Okay. So when I say look at the rubric and just do everything that the rubric says, like that, so many more people did that on the role of women one. And by far and wide, that was a better group of DBQ. Several of you got really high points by just talking about 3 documents on that one. And that's what I mentioned yesterday. That could potentially be the way to go. So I decided that I'm not going to go through any more of periods 8 and 9. If you have specific questions on anything in 8 or 9 that you want me to re-explain, feel free to type that in the chat box and I'll do it here, or you can text me or email me and I can explain that to you. That's no problem. But I don't want to bombard you with like content this morning, especially if I know that content's not going to be where the question comes from. It would just be for context or for magic point stuff. But I do want to mention a few sort of like final thoughts to you, some things to keep in mind. Number one, plan out your essay. Have a little scrap piece of paper and order the documents in the order that you want them to. Draw your contextualization chart if that helps you. Make a note of where your outside evidence will go so that you don't forget anything. And have your rubric with you. Check it off as you go. Check when you've done contextualization. Check when you've done your thesis. Remember, it all needs to be in the opening. Your context should be maybe 4 sentences. Your thesis 1, move on. That's exactly the recipe to success, and that's really what I would do. The second thing is, when you get your question, if you look at it, you see it, you read your documents, and you don't feel confident, I got your letter. Oh, I'm so glad. A lot of you have texted me that you got my letter, and I'm really glad that you got them. So put my little picture up today while you're taking your test, and hopefully it'll send you all the good luck and good vibes. I'll obviously be losing my mind kind of around 2:00 that I can't talk to you or ask you what's going on or know what any of the questions are. That's going to drive me insane. So know that I will be as unhappy as you are while writing your DBQ. So anyway, if you see the question and you don't feel confident, pick 3. Immediately just dump 2 out. Just knock out the 2 that you don't need or that you don't understand. If there's language in 2 of them that you don't get, if there's an author that you've never heard of and you don't want to Google, pick the 3 that you feel good about, because you can still get a 9 out of 10 on the CBQ by only talking about 3 if you did everything else right. And so like I said, several people on their women, the role of women in America one, only talked about 3 and they did great. So keep that in mind. Third, make that magic point your last priority. The likelihood that you get the magic point, even when you write for it, is hard. I mean, it's low. So I wouldn't spend a ton of time mulling over can you get points up? No, you cannot lose any points for doing a document wrong. You can't lose points for anything. You can only not gain points. That's why I say 3, because then if you don't use one correctly, the 2 is still all you need to get the point. I don't understand the magic point. Aren't you supposed to relate the topic to another period or region? There are 5 ways to earn the magic point. They're all written on your rubric. That's one way you can do it, Caleb. You can also qualify your argument, which is the way that most people choose to do it. You can make insightful connections within periods across themes. You can explore through nuances throughout your thing. They're all written down on your thing. My cousin told me that during her AP, your exam wasn't submitted, and it happened to a lot of people. Could that happen to us? I'm telling you right now, the reason that happened is because they didn't, because it has to be American history, Caleb. This is APUSH. It's because those people were working with an unupdated browser. I mentioned that yesterday. And I talked to some teachers who that happened, and they confirmed that those students were working on a browser that was not updated. Of course, though, most really wants me to throw him this rubber cat thing, but I don't have time. That could definitely happen to some of you guys. What College Board was saying was that 99 or 98% of people didn't have any issue submitting their exam. And I believe that those numbers are right. If the demo worked, then your browser is fine, right? I would assume so. But College Board on their, if you Google and I can probably even text this link out, they have a coronavirus updates page for their AP tests. And if you look on that, they have links to browsers where you can make sure that your browser's updated, I think. So I can text that out and you can double check. But I'm thinking that if the demo worked, then your browser should be okay. But like I said, literally everyone that I talked to who couldn't, when they were hitting submit and it wouldn't submit, everyone I talked to, that was because they didn't have an updated browser. If we started before 2, you literally can't start before 2. Yeah, it just opens that at 2:00, so you cannot start before 2. That's why I said log on early. You can always log on early because you've got to answer those questions. If I was you, I'd be logging on at 1:15, no later than 1:25, 1:30, because you've got to answer those beforehand questions, and then at 2:00 it'll be ready to roll. Okay. Next thing, outside evidence. A couple of people I have noticed in their DBQs have been mentioning some good things for outside evidence, but haven't been fully explaining it. And remember, it's supposed to be evidence for your argument, just like your documents are evidence for your argument. You can't mention outside evidence in one sentence and get the point. You need to explain what it is and then how it fits your argument. So I would give outside evidence 2 to 3 sentences minimum. Okay. If you have more time to give more explanations, absolutely do that. It's probably not a bad idea to write down sort of the skeleton of your DBQ and then go back in and then if you see you have 15 minutes left, go back in and add more to your evidence here. Go back in and do your magic point here and things like that. Don't be afraid to spell it out for them. I mentioned that the other day as well. And I saw several people who did that in their role of women DBQ, and it helps the reader and it just makes it that much more sure that you're going to get that point. You don't remember, this doesn't have to be some glamorous thing. You're not submitting it to be published in a scholarly journal or anything. You're just using it to try to get this credit. So, don't be afraid to say, if your, thesis is that the role of women changed over time because of new political opportunities, don't be afraid to say this new political opportunity allowed women to get involved and cause society to change their beliefs or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, don't be afraid to put a sentence in there and be like, this is me proving my thesis with this point. Like, you can do that. Make it easy on the reader. I mentioned that yesterday too. Paragraphs and date your paragraphs. Okay. That's the best way. And also it's not against the rules to not cite your document. Some of you write without citing, or you just say like in document 3 instead of doing like the parenthesis document 3. And that's okay. But as far as not where I can find a DBQ rubric more organized than the one College Board uploaded, yes. Google Tom Ritchie DBQ rubric, and that Google actually Tom Ritchie 2020 DBQ rubric, and that'll be the 5-doc DBQ rubric, and it has all College Board's info, and it's a lot easier to read. Can we say intro paragraph 1? Honestly, you can say that. There are no rules against that. If you really want to, whatever. That, like I said, there's literally nothing you can lose points for. You can only not earn points. So do whatever you think is going to make it easiest on you and the reader. Do what you feel comfortable with. A lot of you over these last 3 DBQs that you've written have written some really good ones. And I think you've learned some helpful things. And if you still don't feel that great, like I said, watch the Tom Ritchie thing that several people watched, and they said that it was really helpful. So I definitely suggest that. Next, remember that you have to be able to argue against your thesis for it to really be a thesis. If you're not sure if your thesis is really good, some advice on thesis statements, because remember, if you write a bad DBQ, it's probably because it all fell apart at the thesis statement. Your thesis is the foundation of the entire thing. Your outside evidence points can only be earned if they support your thesis. Your DBQ or your document support points can only be earned if they support your thesis. So that right there is 4 points that go along with your thesis statement. There are 5 points dependent. Half of your essay is dependent on having a strong thesis. So you have to make sure that you do. So some advice on thesis statements: don't be afraid to use the language of the prompt. If the prompt is saying, evaluate the extent to which ideas about the roles of women in society changed from 1776 to 1920, you can absolutely say, the society's views on or ideas on the roles of women changed dramatically from 1776 to 1920 due to blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. That can be your thesis statement. You'll have to put some extra things in there. Don't just restate the thesis, but feel free to use the prompt and their language, because then they will know that that's your thesis statement. That's perfectly acceptable. And remember, you can always, if you're doing one of those qualifying argument things as your magic point, you can always put that in your thesis. So if you're saying, if your magic point was going to be that like some ideas about women remain the same because there are still stereotypes and perceptions about the woman being the caregiver, then you absolutely could say, although women had between the years 1776 and 1920, women consistently battled against stereotypes of being the nurturer and the caregiver. Overall, ideas about the role of women in society changed significantly because of this and this. And then in your magic point, that's when you take your although and flesh it out into one paragraph. So you can do that. But remember, if your thesis statement is a fact, so if your thesis statement is women fought for equality, that's a fact. We can't argue against that. You can argue about whether or not it was successful, but you cannot argue that women fought for equality. Like, we know that. It'd be the same as if we said that, like, saying that a thesis statement is that people were like morally opposed to slavery. Like, yeah, we know that. But did that moral opposition lead to, like, is that what caused the end of slavery? Like, that's where the thesis statement comes in. Like, where is the opposite? If you can't think of an opposite to your thesis statement, it's not a thesis statement, and you need to come up with something stronger. Don't overthink it. I saw a few people who overthought a few things, whether it be contextualization or their thesis statements. Remember, you don't need to literally give for your contextualization. You're giving us an overall thing. You're giving us like an overall, here's what was happening at the time outside of this theme, or here's what happened later. Let me tell you how we got there through my argument, or here's what happened leading up to this moment. And then hit me with like a couple of moments of specific factual information. Several of you who are really good contextualization paragraphs mentioned like Anne Hutchinson in your opening. That's a great one. You can give us like general information about Puritan women and women in the colonies staying in the private sphere versus the public sphere. A lot of people use that verbiage, which is awesome. And then you mentioned Anne Hutchinson, and then say who she is, who was exiled for holding a Bible study and challenging gender roles in her Puritan community, is an example of women trying to overcome these obstacles and not being successful. So you could say something like that. Then you're giving them specific factual information. They know that you know what you're talking about. That's all they want to see in that contextualization paragraph. You can't just say like, since the beginning, women had it rough. And then thesis, like that's not enough. You got to give them more than that. And I had quite a few people start that. I thought that you guys would like that. This is an essay where you could potentially start it off by saying, when Jamestown was founded in 1607, since that's the date everyone seems to have stuck in their brains. So absolutely, if the prompt begins in period 3 and you want to start with Jamestown 1607, you can do that. But I wouldn't reach too much. If it's a DBQ about the New Deal, please don't start your essay by saying since Jamestown was founded in 1607. That's probably not a good plan. And remember to make it smooth. Don't and then that really goes back to like what I was saying just a second ago. Like, don't, if your thesis statement is and your topic is going to be focusing on the New Deal, don't give us something from 100 years before that and then jump with no transition to your thesis statement. The information from 100 years before might be relevant, but you can't just throw it out there and then jump 100 years into your thesis statement with no connection. So if it makes it easier on you to cover the information that's right before, do that. Remember that you have those cheat sheets, you have your study guide. Like I said, if the topic is on Jackson, flip to Jackson and then look in your study guide at what was covered right before Jackson, and you'll see some things there to maybe jog your memory, or things happening during Jackson that weren't necessarily political. That's all stuff that you could throw in for context. Remember, spelling and grammar do not matter. So don't freak out. I will say that my rule, that the rule that I use when I grade your quizzes and stuff, is still typically the rule for College Board. If it's spelled so wrong that it's a whole new word and it loses the meaning, yes, that matters. If you butch Anne Hutchinson's name so much that it's not Hutchinson anymore, and she's a whole new woman, they're not going to take that. You won't get credit for that. But as far as like little things, like if you spell, I don't know. I don't know what you might spell wrong. Y'all shockingly spell quite a few things wrong, but that's okay. It could be the most stressful hour, yes. But when you're done, you're gonna feel relieved no matter what. Like, I promise. If you think you did bad on it, when it's over, you're gonna feel relieved because it's gonna be over. And if you think you did good, yes, Huxley, great example. Declaration of Sentiments. That changes it to be a new word. We wouldn't want to say sediments. We would want to say sentiments. If you spell it phonetically like it sounds, perfect. But don't forget you have Google to your advantage. Google it, make sure the spelling's right. Oh yeah, and that brings me to my last point. Don't be afraid. This is open note, okay? Yeah, I'm sure you're very paranoid about College Board thinking you cheated when you didn't. Do I think College Board would take it? Declaration of Sentiments depends on the reader. Y'all already know if I was a reader, I ain't taking Declaration of Sentiments. Truly, Gabby, you are 100% correct. Nothing can top Zaria spelling. Maybe the spell check will come in to really help Zaria this year. But gosh, what was I just saying? Oh yeah, don't be afraid to Google stuff. I know that you're really paranoid, and you should be about College Board potentially thinking you're cheating. But genuinely, I don't think that they'll think you're cheating if you're not cheating. And don't be afraid. Like, some people mixed up the National Women's Party with the National Organization for Women in their women DBQ. Remember, now founded by Betty Friedan in the 1960s, not the same as NWP, founded in the 19 teens by Alice Paul. And if you're not 100% sure if there's any doubt in your mind, Google National Organization for Women. If it says it was founded in 1960, it wasn't Alice Paul. Or Google Alice Paul, and you should see founder of the National Women's Party, and you'll be like, oh yeah, that's what it's called. And then you can write that down. So that should be that's totally fine to do. You shouldn't have to worry about small little things like that. I hope they don't think I'm cheating because my dad is going to be on Zoom and Skype all day. My only caution to that, Caleb, is I hope that your bandwidth can handle it when you try to submit, because you guys saw yesterday, my parents were FaceTiming my brother upstairs, and it sucked all the bandwidth up to where you guys couldn't, it cut the stream and you guys couldn't see me anymore. So if that happens, honestly, if any of you have any issues and for some reason you can't submit, it's okay. You can take the makeup exam. I know that that's not what anyone wants, but you've come so far taking the makeup exam and getting an opportunity to still be able to show what you know and earn that credit. It is still worth it. I'll be happy to keep working with you between now and then if that was to happen. It's obviously not ideal, and it'll of course be a whole new questions, and you would have just written an entire DBQ for no reason. But it is what it is. I feel like there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. So if I think of anything that's super duper important, then I will send it out. Like I said, for those of you who wrote your reconstruction DBQs and emailed them to me last night, I will be looking at those today and I'll email you some feedback, since you guys had to email me your papers, your essays. I'll just email you back the feedback. For those of you who didn't do that, I still suggest you watch the Tom Ritchie video where he goes over that DBQ and gives you some helpful writing tips. He's really like a master. He also did, let me get to his channel so I can show you the review that he did last night. This is the thumbnail for it. So he did this one right here, which is titled "The Supreme Leader of APUSH." It's like him and Kim Jong-un. And it's an hour and 40 minutes long. So he does that review where he goes over a lot of content, which is really helpful. He also has a period 3 cheat sheet video, the reconstruction DBQ explanation, and then he also has a 2020 DBQ rubric explained. If you need one more like recap on that, then that should do it. Remember, his the rubric that you guys use, the one that's so much easier to look at than College Board's, is the one that he made. So that'll be the one that he's explaining. Okay. If we're using a computer, is it okay to have the documents on one half and the place we're writing it next to it? For instance, I'm writing it on Google Docs, so I should have half the screen on that and half the screen on Google Docs, and the other half on AP Classroom. Why would you have, yes, Tom Ritchie is doing a review at 10:30. Why would you have half the screen on AP Classroom? Do you mean like the your AP exam? But yes, you can have two screens up. You can definitely do that. You cannot open the exam in more than one tab, but you can have the exam here where the documents are, and then you can have okay, Dulce says the one where he talks about the rubric is definitely helpful. So everyone watch that. And that's not even a long one. That one's only like 10 minutes. So we'll give that one a watch. So you can't open the exam in more than one tab, but you can definitely have that and then your Google Doc tab open. I wouldn't have extra tabs open just because it pulls your bandwidth, and that's a bad idea. You can definitely have your study guide anyway. Is it like either a Google Doc or a Word doc? You can have that up, and if you're using an electronic study guide, don't forget the find key. Control F. Your study guide's really long. And so if you quickly need to get to the new deal, Control F, type in new deal, enter, and it will take you straight to where the new deal is on your study guide. So that could be something that's really helpful. And the same for those other things I uploaded to help you. The like presidents thing. If you all of a sudden can't remember anything about Jackson, Control F, Jackson, enter, and scroll to where Jackson is in that big long president's PDF I gave you, and you'll see those like highlights of his presidency and stuff. And so, little small things like that. I know that the 45 minutes is stressful, but remain calm. I know that's a lot easier said than done, but just do what you can in those 45 minutes. How could anyone forget Jackson? It could be intentional. Like it was so traumatizing. His presidency was so traumatizing that you had to like black it out of your mind. That I could understand. But he is a difficult man to forget. Oh, I found out. Speaking of people that are difficult to forget, I found out that Showtime is about to drop a new series about John Brown. I have heard from several people in the field that it is going to be wildly historically inaccurate, but it will be largely the issue they seem to have beef with is that it will really be depicting him as like an actual crazy person. And some of you might think that he was an actual crazy person anyway. So if that's what you think, this new Showtime show might be right up your alley. I'm not sure what the name of it is, but if I find like a trailer or anything for it once they put that out, I will send it out to everyone in the Remind. I won't be deleting the Remind just because today you're kind of done with me. I won't be deleting the Remind in case, over the summer I need to remind you about like, hey, your scores are going to come out or anything like that. Either I can never remember if it's I get to see your scores a day before you or you get to see your scores a day before me. But when I see your scores, I might text it to you and be like, hey, this is what you made. Or if you haven't heard from me and when you get your score, tell me, let a girl know. I'm gonna want to know what you made. His life is so crazy. Why would you need? That's what I said. Like, why would you don't even need to make it historically accurate to make it good TV. I mean, the man was something. I know. I can't believe today's the day either. Today's the last time she's gonna. That's so true for those of you and several of you who have civil liberties now or had it last semester. You're never going to have me again. This is it. Are you going to tell us what you think we got? I will tell you, but remember that what I think you got might not at all be what you got because I might give you a point for something that they want and vice versa. Do you remember that one show you told us about in class? I think it was about Nazis. There are two shows we talked about in class. One was The Man in the High Castle, which is on Amazon about like had the Nazis won the war. Very good. Three shows. The next is called Hunters, also on Amazon about Nazi hunters. Very good show with Al Pacino. And then the third is, Amber is right. It is sad. And then the third is the one about if Charles Lindbergh had run for president. I still haven't watched that one yet, so I can't tell you how good it is, but I can tell you I wanted to wait till all the episodes came out so that I could binge it because I just like don't do well with watching things one episode at a time. Like I forget what happened. It's not as interesting. So I like to wait until everything, like the whole season's out so I can watch it all at once. Someone just said something about scores and I missed it. Oh, what if our scores are so bad? So what if your scores are so bad? So what if you get a 1? Whatever. It's not going to hurt you. It's not going to be on your transcript. Colleges won't know you made a 1. The only person who's going to know you made a 1 is me and you. And I won't tell anyone. How did they choose who grades the exams? It's random. They just said all the grading is taking place at home this year, so people are doing it online. So they'll just allot exams, like a stack of exams to like readers. So like I'll log into my reader prompt. I'm not a reader, but if I was a reader, I would log into like my my software, and then I would have a bunch of exams ready for me to grade. As I read them and scored them, then they would go over to a second reader who would then double check my scores and make sure that they agree. And then if there are any that we don't agree on, they would go to a third reader, and then they would sort of be the tiebreaker there. And then that's it. That's how it gets scored. I'll watch one episode and then I'll watch the whole season. Yeah, same. It's got to be one. I can't just watch one episode and then be like, because I'll honestly, even if I watch like 3 episodes, I won't, and I stop, I won't go back and finish it. Yeah, this year they said they're going to have 2 people reading your DBQ because, if you had one person read your DBQ and maybe they didn't give you a point for something that they really wanted you to get a point for, it's okay because you have all these other things going into your final score calculation, and that's fine. So there'll be other things that could bring it up, but this year your whole exam score depends on these 10 points. So they want to make sure that you're really getting every point that you earned. So that's why there are 2 people. And yeah, that might take a little bit longer, or it could take less time because they won't have anyone grading short answer questions or LEQs or multiple choice. This will just be, they'll just have everyone who's a reader reading these DBQs. Gonna binge so many shows over the summer. Ugh, same. Also, I think I'm buying a house. I'll probably be doing that this summer. Maybe for service hours, I'll get some of you to come paint my house. Not actually. I'm pretty sure that's not allowed. The biggest loss of this whole thing is the shows I had to stop filming. Ugh, I totally agree. The freaking Survivor finale was a Zoom call. That is not the same. So I'm very upset about that. Space Jams 2. I know. Yes, I bought a house. Well, I'm buying a house. Any other things that you want to get off of your chest and ask while we have this last bit of time together? If you didn't get the card that other people are saying that they got from me, make sure you have checked the mail. Make sure mom or dad have checked the mail. I sent them out on Monday, so you should have gotten them. Are we going to ever see each other again? Yes, we are going to see each other again. I just don't know when. We're going to be doing a drive-through thing for the seniors sometime soon. We don't know dates on that, like a drive-through graduation basically. And then we might be able to hold like a real graduation ceremony in July, depending on the laws and everything, like if we're allowed to have large gatherings. If we get to phase 3 and we can have large gatherings sometime in July or August, we'll probably have a real graduation ceremony, in which case, of course, everyone is invited. But I feel strongly that we will be back in school in the fall. However, I don't feel like it will ever be the school that you are used to ever again. I could definitely see, you know how year-round schools do 2 weeks on, a few days off, 2 weeks on, a week off, 2 weeks off. I could see us doing something like that, but the off weeks being online learning. I could definitely see something like that, kind of like a blended hybrid situation. But nothing. I mean, Sharon Contreras isn't telling me anything, so I don't know anything for sure. Any tips on how to keep it simple and short? Yes. Just do what the rubric says. If you've already described the content of 3 documents, you don't need to keep doing it. Period. If you've already explained the purpose of 3 documents and told us how they supported your thesis, you don't need to keep doing it. So once you've hit it that many times and you see that you do it and you've written it down on your rubric, you can just continue to keep it short and move on. Can I go live at 4 to talk about the exam? I can if you guys want me to. Probably, yeah. I mean, that'll be past the time. It's not like I'll have much to say about the exam because I won't know what was on it. I will only be able to go off what you guys have told me. But if you guys want me to go live at 4, I have to think about what I'm going to be doing it for. But if I am, I'll have to see at 4. If I am going to go live, I'll send it out in the remind maybe 30 minutes ahead of time and say or even if it's not 4, 5 or something, I'll send it out in the remind and say I'm going to go live in 30 minutes. Just so you have time to get in front of a computer. And if I do that, you guys can sort of tell in the chat box, your experience with the exam, and then I'll wish you final goodbyes if this isn't it right now. And I know the blended school theory doesn't sound great, but it definitely sounds better than what, the entire University of California system, which is 28 schools, has already said they're going to be doing in the fall, which is not going back to in-person learning. They are going to remain online. So if we could avoid that, I'm sure a lot of people would. I know that, you all hopefully recognize this as a really serious issue and a serious time, and everyone needs to be cautious. And we really need to prioritize the health of others. But that being said, a lot of people can't learn online. So we've got to find a middle ground, we've got to find a way to make everything work. I don't know if that's even possible, but we could certainly need to try. All right. So that is the last of the things I'm going to say this morning. Good luck. Don't freak out. No one is allowed to cry. Caleb, of course, Caleb's like, herd immunity. That sounds like a thing Caleb would say. We can't say, yeah. Why of course, Caleb's that guy. He's right though. We can't. No one's saying we will. So chill. But yes, don't be stressed. Good luck to everyone. Just remember that whatever happens. All you can do is your best. For real. Like, write down what you think you can write down. Don't freak out. Remember I said, if you get your prompt and your prompt is like Napoleon for AP Euro and you're like, what the crap? I don't know how to write for any of this. Throw 2 of those documents out the window, pretend that they don't exist, okay? And narrow yourself down to 3, and that should make it more manageable. My FBI agent will be laughing because I'm crying while trying to keep going. Like Zaria, that time that she had like 3 quizzes to make up at once and was like crying while writing her SAQs. Good times. Don't cry. Don't freak out. If you question a fact, Google it to double check your year. Google it to double check that your people are associated with the right boards. Caleb's probably right, more like College Board agent. And I'll be looking forward to hearing from you whenever everything is over. I would love to hear how you felt about it. You can tell me how you felt about it right after. But according to College Board rules, don't tell me the question until 50 minutes later. So if you want to wait in general till like 3:30 before you text me, then that's absolutely fine. Remember to log on ahead of time. You should be able to click the link in your e-ticket to get you there. Remember that your AP college ID number is on your e-ticket, and you're going to need to type that several places as well. What if GCMC does blended learning? What about college classes? That would be on Greensboro College to figure out. They'll make their own rules. So you might cry after, yeah, tears of joy for real, just because of like stress relief. Once the time is up, I'll probably will cry, and that's okay. It's okay if you cry after, but don't cry during, because you'll have water in your eyes and you won't be able to see the computer screen properly, and you'll probably spell things wrong, like sentiments. You'll probably write sediments, and that's not good. So, remember, I'm going to be looking over those of you who wrote your Reconstruction DBQ. I'm going to go do that now. Go watch some Tom Ritchie videos. Go listen to more Crash Course videos. Remember, those were due last night, all your Crash Course worksheets. If you didn't get them up, do not try to do them today. I want you to think about this exam. You can always work on those later on, tonight or something, or this weekend. But good luck to everyone. You're going to be fine. All of you can do it. Just put my picture up that I mailed you and look at that, and that'll make you feel better. Oh God, I hate to end the stream because it's like real, like you're really doing it, but it is what it is at this point. All right. Don't hesitate to text me over the next few hours if you have specific questions about anything. I'm happy to answer them. I'll make sure that I have my phone on me and then I'm able to respond pretty quickly. Good luck. Don't freak out. Don't cry.